A paranormal shifter romance audiobook. The Phoenix Mark. Prologue. The screaming stopped the moment they realized I couldn't do it. I was 7 years old the day the Crimson Vale Pack discovered I was broken. 7 years old when I learned that in a world where everyone could summon fire, a girl who produced only smoke was worse than useless. She was dangerous. I remember the way Elder Thorn's face twisted when he held out the testing crystal. How the other children my age had made it glow red, orange, white hot with their inner flames. How I'd squeezed my eyes shut and pushed until I thought my skull would crack open. Nothing, well, not nothing. Smoke had leaked from my fingertips. Thick, gray, useless smoke that made everyone cough and step back in disgust. Defective, Thorn had pronounced, his voice carrying across the ceremonial grounds. The fire refuses her. She'll never manifest. She'll never hunt, never fight, never contribute. She's a drain on our resources. My mother had been dead 3 years by then. Died in the same fire raid that scarred half our territory, the one where she'd run back into the flames to save trapped children. Everyone said she was a hero. Everyone also said I'd somehow stolen her fire gift in the womb, left her weak, made her vulnerable. My father stood in the crowd that day. I found his face, those brown eyes that matched mine, the only thing we shared besides a last name. I waited for him to argue, to defend me, to say something. He looked away. Alpha Cain made the decision swiftly. We'll take her to the Ashwood expanse tomorrow. The Deadlands where nothing grows. If the fire spirits reject her, let the earth decide her fate. The Ashwood expanse was where packs left their dead. And, apparently, their living mistakes. They gave me one night to say goodbye to no one because no one wanted to be associated with the defective girl. One night in the communal sleeping hall, listening to whispers about how I'd probably caused my mother's death, how my smokeless shame would finally be gone. I didn't cry. Crying was for people who had hope. My name is Sera, and I am the fire that wouldn't burn. But they were wrong about the smoke. They didn't understand that smoke sees everything fire illuminates. That smoke slips through cracks fire cannot breach. That smoke suffocates flames when needed. They threw me away because they couldn't see past their own light. This is the story of how a smokeless girl became the Phoenix Queen who reduced their certainties to ash. Chapter 1. The Expanse. Dawn came too quickly. They made me walk for 6 hours into the Deadlands, past the territory markers where our protective wards ended, past the green zones where game ran plentiful, into the wastes where the ground was gray powder and nothing grew. The Ashwood expanse earned its name. Decades ago, a wildfire had consumed everything for miles. The land never recovered. No grass, no trees, just endless gray dust and jagged rock formations like broken teeth jutting from dead earth. My feet were bleeding. The thin shoes they'd allowed me, the only mercy, though I suspected it was just because they didn't want to touch my bare skin, had disintegrated after the first hour. Each step sent pain shooting up my legs, but I bit my tongue until I tasted copper. Alpha Cain stopped in a clearing of sorts, a flat expanse of ash surrounded by those terrible rock formations. His scarred face showed nothing. Not regret, not satisfaction. Nothing. This is far enough, he announced. The 12-pack members who'd come as witnesses spread out in a loose circle. My father was among them. He still wouldn't meet my eyes. Sera. Cain's voice carried the weight of absolute authority. Do you understand why you're here? I nodded. Speaking would break something inside me and I needed to hold together just a little longer. Speak, he commanded. Because I can't summon fire, I whispered, my voice barely audible over the wind that stirred the ash into small cyclones. Because I'm defective. Because I'm a burden. Because you threaten pack cohesion, Cain corrected, as if this were a lesson I needed to learn before I died. Every day you remain, you consume food that could feed a hunter. You occupy space that could house a breeding female. You weaken us by association. Other packs see we keep a fireless child and think Crimson Vale has grown desperate or soft. Each word was a brand. I wanted to argue, to say I'd eaten less than anyone, worked harder doing menial tasks, tried desperately to be useful. But what was the point? The Ashwood will decide your worth, Cain continued. If you survive 3 days, you may attempt to reach the neutral settlements beyond the eastern ridgeline. Become a drifter, find some human village foolish enough to take in a fireless girl. But if you attempt to return to Crimson Vale territory? His eyes flashed orange, his fire rising close to the surface. We will burn you alive. Am I clear? Yes, Alpha, I whispered. He nodded once, then turned. We leave. The pack moved as one, turning their backs, forming a barrier between me and home, between me and everything I'd ever known. Wait. The word ripped out of me before I could stop it. Please. I need, my father turned back. For one desperate, stupid second I thought he might speak. Might offer some final word of goodbye, some acknowledgement that I'd once mattered. Instead he pulled something from his pocket and threw it at my feet. A small leather pouch, worn and stained. Your mother's? He said flatly. The only thing she left. I don't want to see it again. Then he followed his alpha into the ash clouds, and they were gone. I waited until their footsteps faded completely, until even the scent of their fire warmth dissipated on the wind, before I moved. My hands shook as I picked up the pouch. The leather was soft, ancient, marked with symbols I didn't recognize. Inside was a pendant, copper and black stone, shaped like a flame with wings. A phoenix. It was beautiful, more beautiful than anything an ordinary pack member should own. My mother had been a mid-ranked fire caller, nothing special. Where had she gotten something like this? I fastened it around my neck, tucking it under my shirt where it rested against my heart. The metal was strangely warm, as if it held heat from a fire that never died. Then I looked around the clearing and felt ice settle in my bones despite the pendant's warmth. The sun was already past its zenith. Maybe 3 hours of light left, maybe less. I was 7 years old, alone, without water or food or shelter in one of the most hostile environments in the territory, and I could already feel things moving in the shadows between the rock formations. The Ashwood expanse wasn't empty. People said things lived here. Things that fed on ash and hunted anything warm-blooded that wandered too close. I should have been terrified. Should have been crying, screaming, breaking down the way any abandoned child would. Instead I felt something else stirring. The smoke inside me, the useless, shameful smoke, was moving. Not burning, not flaming. Moving. Like it was alive, like it had been waiting for this moment. East, something whispered in my mind. Not my voice. Something older, deeper, like wind through a canyon. Water. Shelter. Survived. I closed my eyes and listened. Really listened. The way I'd always been able to sense things others couldn't. The way I could feel emotions bleeding off people like heat from coals. The way I knew when storms were coming. Days before the sky showed signs, the things that made me wrong, there. The presence in my mind was more insistent now. Rock formation, 30 paces north. Cave entrance hidden. Safe for tonight. I opened my eyes and turned north. In the fading light, I could just make out a gap between two particularly jagged rocks. I had two choices. Stay in the open and wait for whatever hunted here to find me, or trust the voice in my head and moved. I moved. The cave was real. Small, barely deeper than I was tall, but with an overhang that would hide me from aerial predators and a narrow entrance that would make it difficult for anything large to enter. I crawled inside and collapsed against the back wall, my body finally registering everything. The pain in my feet, the hunger gnawing at my stomach, the bone-deep exhaustion. But I was alive. For now. As darkness fell completely, I heard things outside. Skittering sounds. Wet breathing. Something that might have been laughter or might have been whine through stone. I pulled my knees to my chest and wrapped my arms around myself. The phoenix pendant pressed against my skin, still warm. I'm going to die here, I whispered to the darkness. No, the voice said clearer now, almost gentle. You're going to live. You're going to survive. And you're going to show them what they discarded. I didn't believe it. But I held on to those words anyway, clutching them like the only light in an endless night, because they were all I had. That first night in the Ashwood, I learned what real hunger felt like. What real fear tasted like. What it meant to be so alone that the only company was my heartbeat and the whispers in my head. That first night, the girl named Sera, the defective, fireless shame, began to die, and something else began to wake up. Chapter 2. Sitch and Bone. I woke to pale dawn light filtering through the cave entrance and the smell of sulfur. For a confused, painful moment, I thought I was back in the pack house, that any second someone would be yelling at me to start my chores. Then I tried to move and agony exploded through every muscle. My feet were worse than yesterday. The cuts had scabbed over with a mixture of blood and ash, creating a gray crust that cracked when I flexed my toes. They should have been infected, swollen, impossible to walk on. Instead they looked better than they should. Still injured, still painful, but healing faster than normal. I filed that observation away with all the other strange things about me. Right now I had bigger problems. Water. Food. Survival. I crawled to the cave entrance and peered out. The Ashwood stretched endlessly in every direction, gray and dead under a sky the color of old bruises. Nothing moved except the wind stirring ash into small devils that danced between rocks. The voice in my head was quiet now, dormant. But I could still feel that pull, that instinct that had led me here last night. And right now it was pulling me, south? No, southwest. Toward something. Water maybe. Or food. I emerged from the cave on shaking legs. Without adrenaline driving me, I could barely stand. But I forced myself forward anyway, following that internal compass because stopping meant dying. I found the water source 20 minutes later, a thin trickle seeping from between two rocks, forming a tiny pool no bigger than my hand before disappearing back into the earth. It tasted like minerals and ash in desperation. I drank until my stomach cramped, then forced myself to drink more. Dehydration would kill me faster than hunger. When I'd had my fill, I sat back and faced my next problem: food. The Ashwood was called Deadlands for a reason. Nothing grew here. No berries, no roots, no plants of any kind. Just endless ash and rock. But something survived here. I'd heard things last night. Where there were predators, there had to be prey. I spent the next hour exploring the area around my cave, and that's when I found them: burrow holes. Dozens of them dotting the ash like pockmarks. I crouched beside one and waited, barely breathing. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then, movement. A creature emerged. About the size of my fist, gray-scaled, with too many legs and eyes like black pearls. An ash crawler. I'd heard about them in lessons. They were supposedly poisonous, inedible, dangerous. But I was starving. The crawler froze when it saw me, its multiple eyes swiveling. It should have retreated. Should have fled back into its burrow. Instead, it went very still, as if waiting. I reached out slowly, palm open, and that warm feeling built in my chest again. The same feeling I'd had when the voice guided me to shelter. The same feeling that made me different, wrong, broken. Smoke leaked from my fingertips, thin wisps of gray that curled around the crawler. The creature didn't panic. Its eyes tracked the smoke and then, impossibly, it crawled onto my palm. I stared at it, my heart hammering. What was happening? Why wasn't it running? Why wasn't I scared of it? Not poison, the voice whispered. Not to you. The ash crawlers know smoke. They're born from it. They recognize you. Carefully, slowly, I carried the crawler back to my cave. It stayed calm in my hand, its many legs tickling my skin. I couldn't eat it. Not now. Not when it had trusted me. I set it down near the cave entrance and watched it scuttle away, disappearing into the ash. My stomach growled furiously, but something in me felt right. Like I'd made the correct choice even if it made no logical sense. On my third day in the Ashwood, I found the dead one. It was another ash crawler, but massive, the size of a small dog. It lay on its back between two rocks, legs curled inward, clearly dead for hours. Natural death, the voice confirmed. Old age. Safe to eat. I should have been revolted. The idea of eating an insect thing raw with no fire to cook it? But I was so hungry I could barely think straight. I used a sharp rock to crack open its carapace. The meat inside was gray and stringy, but it was protein. I ate it all, forcing down the revulsion, forcing my body to accept fuel. It tasted like ash and copper and survival. I kept the carapace pieces. They were hard, sharp. They could be tools, weapons. Everything had a use if you were desperate enough. A week passed. Then 2. Then a month. I survived. I learned which rocks collected morning dew in their crevices. I learned to sense when ash crawlers were near by the faint vibrations in the ground. I learned to read weather in the way the ash swirled, to find shelter before the storms hit, to stay hidden when the larger predators, things with too many teeth and eyes that glowed red, prowled at night. My body changed. The soft uselessness of a pack-kept child burned away. My legs grew strong from climbing rocks. My hands developed calluses from digging and building. My feet, which had been so tender, became tough as leather. And the smoke, the shameful, useless smoke, grew stronger. I learned to use it. Not like fire, but differently. I could send it out like tendrils, feeling my surroundings through it. I could make it thick enough to hide myself from predators. I could communicate with the ash crawlers through it, somehow, in ways I didn't understand, but that kept me alive. The Ashwood wasn't trying to kill me anymore. It was teaching me. And the voice in my head, the presence that had guided me that first night, grew clearer. Not threatening, not demanding. Just there. Patient. Waiting for something. On the night of my 8th birthday, a date I marked only by counting moon cycles, I sat at the entrance of my cave and looked at the phoenix pendant. I'd never taken it off. It stayed warm against my skin even on the coldest nights, a constant comfort. My mother had worn this. My mother, who everyone said was ordinary. But ordinary pack members didn't own artifacts like this. Didn't have pendants that never lost their heat, that sometimes seemed to pulse with a rhythm like a heartbeat. Who were you? I asked the pendant, the night, the memory of a woman I barely remembered. What were you? The answer came not in words but in a feeling. A sense of something vast and ancient sleeping in my blood. A legacy hidden, disguised, waiting. Soon the voice whispered. Soon you'll understand. Soon others will come. Others who will see what your pack couldn't. What am I? I asked aloud, my voice rough from disuse. Why am I different? The answer came as heat, not burning but intense, flooding through the pendant and into my chest. Images flashed through my mind. A woman with copper hair wreathed in flames that didn't consume. A throne made of ash and ember. A crown that looked like frozen fire. Wars, betrayals, massacres. And through it all, the symbol of the phoenix, rising, falling, rising again. Then the images faded, leaving only a single word echoing in my mind. Phoenix born. I didn't understand. Not yet. But I felt it in my bones. Something was changing. The smoke inside me was no longer just smoke. It was transforming, becoming something else. Something powerful. Something that would make them regret ever throwing me away. 6 months after my 8th birthday, I reached the edge of the Ashwood expanse. I hadn't meant to. I'd been following an ash crawler trail, curious about where they migrated during the day. The trail led me further and further until suddenly, grass. Real grass. Green and alive, growing in small defiant patches where the deadlands met the living world. I stopped at the border and stood perfectly still, 1 foot on gray ash, 1 foot on living earth. Leaving the Ashwood meant entering someone's territory. Meant risking discovery. Meant the possibility of being captured, killed, or worse, sent back to Crimson Vale. But staying meant remaining in this dead place forever, surviving but never truly living. Go, the voice urged. You're ready. It's time to discover what you really are. I took a breath, touched the phoenix pendant, and stepped across the boundary. The moment my feet touched grass, I felt it, a massive presence. Not hostile, not welcoming. Just aware. A pack bond, strong and thick, covering this territory like an invisible net. I'd crossed into someone's lands. And somewhere, probably not far away, they just felt me do it. I should run. I'd disappear back into the Ashwood before they found me. But I was so tired of hiding. So I stood there in the dawn light, covered in ash and wearing rags, and waited. They came within the hour. Chapter 3. The Shadow Alpha. I smelled them before I saw them. Not fire scent like Crimson Vale. This was different, earth and stone and something sharper. Metal maybe. The smell of a pack that survived through strength, not flames. 8 figures emerged from the tree line, moving with the coordinated precision of trained warriors. All adults, all armed, all radiating the kind of power that came from never having lost a fight. But it was the one in the front who stole my breath. He was tall, impossibly tall, with hair the color of coal and eyes that were startling against his tan skin, pale gray like storm clouds. He wore leather and steel, twin daggers at his hips, and moved with a predator's fluid grace. An alpha. Undeniably. The power rolled off him in waves that made the air feel heavy. But it wasn't his appearance that made my heart stop. It was his scent. That earth and metal smell hit me like a physical blow, and suddenly the world tilted. My vision tunneled. My pulse roared in my ears. And the voice in my head, the one that had been my only companion for over a year, suddenly screamed. Mate. No. That was impossible. I was 8 years old. Mate bonds didn't manifest until puberty, until first transformation, until both parties were adult enough to recognize them. I was a child. A fireless child who'd never transform. This couldn't be happening. But my body didn't care about logic. Every cell was screaming at me to move closer, to claim, to mark what was mine. I dug my ash-blackened fingers into my palms, forcing myself to stay frozen. If they saw me, if they caught me. The alpha stopped. His head turned, nostrils flaring, and even from 30 paces away I could see his eyes flash that dangerous bright color that meant his fire was rising. Spread out, he commanded, his voice deep and rough like grinding stone. Someone's here. Watching. His warriors obeyed instantly, fanning out into the grass, hands on weapons. They were going to find me. Going to kill me, probably, for trespassing. I needed to run. Needed to get back to the Ashwood, back to safety. Stay, the voice commanded. Trust this. Trust what? Trust the impossible mate bond to a stranger who'd probably burn me alive for crossing his borders? But I couldn't move. Physically couldn't. Because that part of me that had been screaming mate now refused to let me flee from him. He was getting closer. 20 paces. 15. 10. His scent was overwhelming now, intoxicating, making me dizzy and desperate and terrified all at once. He stopped directly in front of the rock outcropping where I'd hidden myself, his gray eyes scanning, searching. Then they found me. For one infinite moment, the world stopped. The wind died. My heartbeat seemed to pause. Even the smoke inside me went still. His eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that stripped away every defense I had. I saw his nostrils flare again. Saw recognition flash across his features. Confusion, shock, and beneath it all, the same bone-deep pull that was tearing me apart. He felt it too. Alpha, one of his warriors called. Did you find something? The Alpha, my mate, impossible as it was, stared at me for 3 more seconds. I saw the war in his expression. Saw him processing what couldn't be possible, what his instincts were screaming at him. Then his face went carefully blank. No, he said, his voice controlled, neutral. False alarm. We keep moving. He turned away and I didn't know if I felt relief or devastation. But Alpha, another warrior protested, you clearly sensed. I said we're moving, he cut them off, his tone brooking no argument. Now. They obeyed, melting back into the trees, following their Alpha away from me. I stayed hidden for another hour, my whole body shaking, my mind spinning. What just happened? The mate bond was sacred, absolute, undeniable. When 2 people found their true match, they knew instantly. It was supposed to be the most important moment of their lives. But I wasn't supposed to be anyone's mate. I was 8. I couldn't even summon fire, let alone transform. So why had I felt it? And more importantly, had he? The way he'd looked at me suggested yes. The way he'd lied to his warriors suggested he didn't want them to know. But why? I should have run. Should have gone back to the Ashwood, or better yet, kept moving east toward the neutral settlements like Alpha Cain had generously suggested. Instead, I did something monumentally stupid. I followed them. Not closely, I wasn't suicidal. But I tracked their scent trail through the forest, staying downwind, using every skill the Ashwood had taught me about moving unseen. They were heading northwest, deeper into what I assumed was their territory. I followed for hours, until the sun began to set and my legs trembled with exhaustion and my empty stomach cramped. That's when I heard voices. They'd made camp in a clearing beside a stream, small fires burning, of course they could make fire, everyone could except me, tents erected with military efficiency, guards posted at intervals. I found a spot upwind, concealed in thick underbrush, and settled in to watch and listen. Still think we should have investigated further, one of the warriors was saying. You smelled something, Kieran? We all saw your reaction. Kieran. His name was Kieran. I tested it silently, feeling how it fit in my mouth, how right it felt despite everything. I smelled a drifter, Kieran replied, his voice flat. Half-starved, probably feral. Nothing worth our time. Liar. He knew I wasn't just some random drifter. Still, another warrior said, we're close to Crimson Vale borders. If they're sending scouts this far into our territory... They're not, Kieran interrupted. I would have smelled pack bond. This was a lone traveler, unaffiliated. Not our concern. The conversation shifted to other things, territorial disputes, some upcoming challenge ceremony, politics I didn't understand. But I stayed focused on Kieran, watching the way firelight played across his features, the way he held himself even at rest, the way his eyes occasionally flicked toward the forest as if he knew I was out there. Alpha, an older warrior approached, his tone respectful. Your father sent another runner. He wants to know your plans regarding the Crimson Vale situation. When I'm ready to deal with it, I will, Kieran said shortly. He's concerned about their increasing aggression. They've been pushing into territories that aren't theirs, burning forests, claiming hunting grounds. He thinks. I know what he thinks, Kieran's voice hardened. Tell him I'll handle it when I return. Crimson Vale. My former pack. Something cold settled in my stomach. These people, Kieran's pack, were enemies of Crimson Vale. Had been for generations according to stories I'd heard as a child. Border disputes, resource wars, blood feuds going back decades. If Kieran ever learned I came from Crimson Vale, even though they'd thrown me away, would he see me as the enemy? Would this impossible mate bond matter at all against generations of hatred? I was so lost in thought I almost missed the shift in the camp's atmosphere. The guards suddenly went rigid. Hands moved to weapons. Even Kieran rose to his feet, his body language shifting from relaxed to battle-ready in an instant. Something, was approaching. I pressed deeper into the underbrush, making myself invisible. 4 figures emerged from the opposite tree line. Not pack members. Drifters, I could tell from their ragged appearance, their feral movements, the way they moved without coordination. But these weren't the half-mad, starving drifters I'd encountered in the Ashwood. These were organized. Armed. Dangerous. Shadow pack, the lead drifter said, his voice a gravelly snarl. Didn't expect to find you out here. Neutral forest is neutral, Kieran replied, his hand resting casually on one of his daggers. But there was nothing casual about his posture. You have business with us? Maybe. The drifter smiled, showing too many teeth. Heard interesting things about a Shadow Pack Alpha traveling with a small group. Away from pack lands. Vulnerable. You think 8 trained warriors are vulnerable? One of Kieran's people laughed, but it wasn't a pleasant sound. Against 4 drifters? Against 40, the lead drifter corrected, and suddenly the forest came alive with movement. Drifters poured from the trees, surrounding the camp. 20, 30, 40, maybe more. All armed, all coordinated, all clearly working together. This was an ambush. A planned, organized attack on a pack alpha in neutral territory. It was supposed to be impossible. Forbidden. An act that would bring the wrath of every pack down on the attackers' heads. But drifters didn't follow pack law. Kieran's warriors drew weapons, forming a defensive circle. But they were outnumbered 5 to 1. Even trained pack warriors had limits. This was going to be a massacre. I should leave. Should run. This wasn't my fight. These people meant nothing to me. If Kieran died here, the mate bond would break and I could go back to my simple life in the Ashwood and forget this impossible complication ever happened. I should leave. But my body was already moving. The voice in my head, the one that had been quiet since Kieran's pack left earlier, suddenly roared to life. Protect. Defend. Save him. And for the first time since being abandoned, I felt something inside me unfurl. Not fire. I still couldn't summon flames. But something else. Something that had been sleeping since birth, waiting for this moment. Waiting for a reason to wake up. I stepped into the clearing. Chapter 4. The smoke rises. Stop. The word came out of me like a thunderclap. Not loud, not shouted, but absolute. Undeniable. A command that bypassed conscious thought and went straight to instinct. Every person in that clearing froze. Not because they wanted to. Because they had to. Because something in my voice, something primal and ancient and utterly commanding, demanded obedience. Including Kieran. I saw shock flash across his face as his body locked in place, his fire-blessed power submitting to a command he didn't understand. His warriors were the same, frozen mid-motion, weapons half-drawn. The drifters were frozen too. And on their faces wasn't just shock. It was fear. I walked forward slowly, my bare feet silent on the grass. I was still small, 8 years old and half-starved would do that. But somehow I felt bigger, taller, like I was taking up more space than my body should. The phoenix pendant at my throat was burning hot, glowing faintly against my ash-stained skin. Leave, I said to the drifters, my voice still carrying that strange resonance that seemed to echo from somewhere deep inside. Now. And don't come back. The lead drifter tried to fight the command. I saw him shaking with effort, his muscles straining, his fire trying to rise in protest. Who? He managed to choke out. What are you? Good question. I didn't know the answer myself. But the voice in my head did. Phoenix-born, it whispered. You're Phoenix-born and they know it. I raised my hand, an instinctive gesture I didn't think about, and smoke poured from my palm. Not the thin wisps I'd been producing. This was thick, dark, alive. It rolled across the clearing like a living thing, and everywhere it touched, the drifters' fires sputtered and died. Every single one of them dropped to their knees, including the leader who looked like he'd rather die than submit but couldn't help himself. Leave, I repeated, letting the smoke swirl around them like a noose. This alpha is under my protection. Touch him and you'll answer to me. Phoenix-born, the lead drifter breathed, and there was awe in his voice now. Terror and reverence mixed together. The bloodline, they said it was extinct. Do I look extinct? I asked quietly. He shook his head mutely. Then go. They went. Fled really? 40 drifters scrambling over each other to escape, disappearing into the forest like they'd never been there. The moment they were gone, whatever power had been holding Kieran and his warriors released. They stumbled, gasping, weapons clattering as coordination failed. And every single one of them turned to stare at me. I suddenly felt very small again. Very young. Very aware that I was an 8-year-old girl in ash-stained rags facing 8 trained warriors who I just magically commanded like they were puppets. My voice came out normal now, small and scared. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, they were going to kill you and I couldn't. Kneel, Kieran said softly. His warriors dropped to their knees immediately. But Kieran himself didn't kneel. He was staring at me like I was a puzzle he couldn't solve, a threat he couldn't assess, something impossible he couldn't explain. Phoenix-born, he said, and the word was half question, half accusation. You're Phoenix-born. I didn't know what to say. Didn't understand what had just happened any more than he did. The Phoenix bloodline ended 35 years ago, Kieran continued, taking a step toward me. I forced myself not to step back. Every heir was hunted down and killed in the purge. Every last one. It's historical fact. Apparently not, I managed. Who are you? He was close now. So close I could smell him, that earth and metal scent that made my head spin. Where did you come from? Which pack? I couldn't tell him. If he knew I was Crimson Vale, if he knew I was the enemy. I'm no one, I whispered. I'm packless. A drifter. I've been alone for. Liar. But his voice wasn't angry. It was odd, almost gentle. You're not alone. You have power. Significant power. I can feel it even if I can't see the flames. You're Phoenix-born. But that's impossible because Phoenix heirs don't survive to adulthood, I finished. I know. Everyone knows. Which is why I'm asking you. I met his eyes, those storm gray eyes. Please don't tell anyone what you saw here. Please. You just saved my pack's lives. I know. And you're grateful. But if word gets out that there's a Phoenix heir alive, every pack in the territory will come hunting. You know that's true. He did. I could see it in his eyes. Phoenix blood was valuable, powerful, dangerous. A Phoenix heir could command any fire-blessed, could unite packs, could change the balance of power across the entire region. I'd just proven that by driving off 40 drifters with a word. If Kieran told anyone, if anyone learned what I was, I'd never be safe again. Please, I whispered. He stared at me for a long moment. I saw the war in his expression, duty versus something else. Something that made his fire rise behind his eyes, made his body lean toward mine even as his mind clearly screamed at him to step back. The mate bond. He felt it too. I knew he did. What's your name? He asked quietly. Sera. Sera. He said it like he was testing the taste. I'm Kieran. I know. His eyebrow rose. You were listening. Earlier. I was curious. Curious enough to risk your life to save mine? I didn't have an answer for that. Didn't understand my own actions. All I knew was that when I'd seen him in danger, every instinct had screamed at me to protect him. Even though we were strangers. Even though he was an alpha of a pack that was supposed to be my enemy. I should go, I said, breaking eye contact. Your warriors, they'll want answers. They'll want to know who I am. And I can't. I'm not ready. Sera. His hand shot out, catching my wrist. Not hard but firm enough to stop me. The moment his skin touched mine, heat flared through the contact point. Not burning. Something else. Something that made the mate bond sing so loudly I almost gasped. He felt it too. I saw his eyes widen, saw his breath catch. Wait, he said, his voice rougher now. Meet me tomorrow. Dawn. Back where I first saw you at the border. We need to talk about this. About what you are. About what it means. Why? Because you just saved my life. He paused, jaw clenching. Because you're Phoenix-born. Because, he stopped himself, visibly fighting something internal. Just be there. It was a command, an alpha command backed by the authority of fire and rank. But it didn't work on me. I felt it slide off like water off stone, my Phoenix blood making me immune to fire-blessing authority. Still I nodded. Dawn, I agreed. Then I pulled my wrist from his grip, ignoring how much it hurt to break that contact, and disappeared into the forest before he could say anything else. Before I could do something stupid like tell him about the mate bond. Before I could ask why his touch made my skin burn and my heart race and everything in me scream mine, mine, mine. I ran all the way back to the border, my mind spinning, my body trembling with exhaustion and power drain. What had I just done? What was I? Phoenix-born. The voice in my head purred with satisfaction. Finally awake. Finally ready. Ready for what? I gasped, collapsing at the edge of the Ashwood. Everything. Not helpful. I pulled out the Phoenix pendant, holding it up to catch the moonlight. It was still warm, still pulsing with that steady rhythm. My mother had been Phoenix-born. That's what the drifter's reaction meant, what Kieran's shock meant. The bloodline everyone thought extinct had survived in her, hidden, disguised as an ordinary fire caller. And she'd passed it to me. But why couldn't I summon fire? If I was Phoenix-born, shouldn't I have flames like everyone else? You have something better, the voice said. Smoke sees what fire cannot. Smoke flows where fire cannot reach. Smoke suffocates what fire cannot touch. You are not less than fire-blessed. You are beyond them. I wanted to believe that. Wanted to think that being different didn't mean being broken. But I was 8 years old, exhausted, terrified, and I just revealed myself to a pack alpha who could destroy me with a single word to the wrong people. I'd agreed to meet him at dawn, to talk about what it meant. And underneath all of that, humming constantly in the background, was the mate bond. Impossible, undeniable, growing stronger every second I spent near him. What was I going to do? I didn't sleep that night. How could I? My mind wouldn't stop replaying the clearing, the drifters, the power that had flowed through me when I spoke. The way Kieran had looked at me, like I was dangerous and precious in equal measure. When the sky finally started to lighten, I climbed out of my hiding spot near the border and made my way to the meeting place. He was already there, standing in the same spot where he'd stood yesterday, looking at the same patch of ground where I'd hidden. He wore simpler clothes today, just leather pants and a dark shirt, no visible weapons. Making himself less threatening or maybe just less obvious as an alpha. "You came," he said without turning around. "You asked me to." "I commanded you to," he corrected, turning to face me. "But it didn't work, did it?" The alpha voice. I shook my head. "Phoenix trump card," he said, and there was something like wonder in his voice. "I'd heard stories but I never thought." He stopped himself. "How old are you, Sera?" 8. His eyes widened. 8. You're 8 years old and you can command grown fire-blessed warriors. You can neutralize 40 drifters with a gesture. He shook his head. "How?" "I don't know," I admitted. "I didn't mean to. You were going to die. They all were. And something inside me wouldn't let that happen. Your power. I don't have power. I can't even summon fire. Everyone says I'm defective. Everyone is wrong." He moved closer, crouching down so we were eye level. "You have power, Sera. One of the strongest I've ever sensed. Just different. Not fire but smoke. And smoke is..." He paused, searching for words. "Smoke is its own kind of flame. Slower. Subtler. But no less devastating." "How do you know all this?" "My grandmother was a scholar. Studied the old ways the time before the purge. She told me stories about the Phoenix Queens, about their power, their purpose." His voice softened. "She also told me that if a Phoenix heir ever survived, they'd be in terrible danger. Every pack would want to claim them. Control them. Use them. Is that what you want?" I asked quietly. "To claim me?" His jaw clenched. "No." But the way his eyes darkened said otherwise. The way his body leaned toward mine said otherwise. The way his fire rose behind those gray eyes, hungry and possessive and desperate, said otherwise. "Liar," I whispered. He laughed, a rough, frustrated sound. "You're 8 years old." "I know. This is impossible." "I know that too. But you feel it." Not a question. A statement. The mate bond. Even though you shouldn't. Even though you're too young, even though neither of us can explain it. You feel it. I nodded, not trusting my voice. He scrubbed a hand over his face. "This is insane. I'm an alpha. I'm 24 years old. You're a child. This bond, it shouldn't have sparked for years. Decades maybe." "I didn't ask for this," I said, my voice small. "I didn't ask for any of it. The Phoenix blood. The power. I couldn't say it. Couldn't name the bond out loud." "I know." He looked at me with something like pain. "And I will keep you safe, Sera. From every threat. Including myself. This bond, it changes nothing about how I will treat you. You're a child who needs protection. That's all this can be. That's all it will be until you're grown. Do you understand?" I understood. But it hurt anyway. "But here we are," I said quietly. "Here we are," he agreed. Silence stretched between us, heavy with everything we couldn't say. Finally he asked, "What pack are you from?" The question I'd been dreading. I could lie. Should lie. Tell him I was from somewhere far away, some pack he'd never heard of. But something in me, maybe the Phoenix blood, maybe just exhaustion, wanted to tell the truth. "Crimson Vale," I whispered. His whole body went rigid. "Your pack is Crimson Vale." They threw me away. Left me in the Ashwood to die when I was 7 because I couldn't summon fire. They have no claim on me. I'm not pack anymore. I'm nothing. "You're everything," he said roughly. Then quieter, "They threw you away. They had a Phoenix heir and they threw you away because you were different. They didn't know. No one knew. The power only started waking up after I was alone. After I learned to survive." I touched the Phoenix pendant. This was my mother's. The only thing I have from her. I don't even know who she really was. She knew what I was. If she... Kieran's hand shot out, grabbing my wrist, the same one he'd grabbed yesterday. But this time he pulled me closer, his eyes fixed on the pendant. Let me see that. I fumbled with the clasp, my hands shaking, and pulled it off. He took it carefully, holding it up to the morning light. I've seen this symbol before, he breathed. In my grandmother's books. This is, Sera, this is the royal phoenix seal. The mark of the phoenix queen's bloodline. The royal seal. The mark of queens who'd ruled before the purge. That's impossible, I said. My mother was just, she was nobody. A mid-ranked fire caller who died birthing me. She wasn't. Kieran's voice was intense now. She was hiding. Survived the purge, went into hiding, changed her name, lived as a common pack member to avoid detection. And then she had you. His eyes met mine. You're not just phoenix-born, Sera. You're the phoenix heir. The last surviving member of the royal bloodline. The rightful queen of all fire-blessed. The world tilted. Queen? Me? No. That was impossible. Queens were powerful and wise and strong. I was a throwaway. An 8-year-old girl who lived on ashcrawler meat and couldn't even summon fire. I couldn't be a queen. I can prove it, Kieran said urgently. Come with me. Back to Shadow Pack territory. My grandmother's still alive. She'd know for certain. She could teach you, help you understand your power, keep you safe. Safe. I yanked my hand back. Your pack and mine have been at war for generations. If you bring me back as a Crimson Veil cast-off. You're not Crimson Veil anymore, he said fiercely. They threw you away. They have no claim on you. And you do. He opened his mouth. Closed it. The struggle was clear on his face. No, he finally said. I don't. No one does. You belong to yourself. But Sera, his voice dropped low. You're in danger here. If any other pack finds you, if they figure out what you are, they'll take you. Force you. Use your power for their own ends. Phoenix blood is too valuable, too rare. They won't care that you're 8 years old. They won't care about anything except controlling you. And you're different? Yes, he said with absolute certainty. Because he stopped himself, jaw clenching. Because you're your mate, I finished softly. Don't. His voice was rough. Don't say that. You're too young to understand what that means. I understand that when I thought you were going to die, something inside me broke, I said. I understand that your scent makes me feel safe and terrified at the same time. I understand that walking away from you yesterday was the hardest thing I've ever done. I met his eyes. I might be 8, but I'm not stupid. He stared at me for a long moment, and I saw everything he was feeling play across his face. Desire and denial, protectiveness and fear, the mate bond pulling at him as hard as it pulled at me. Come with me, he said finally. Not as my mate. Not as my claim. Just, come with me. Let my grandmother meet you. Let her confirm what you are. Then we'll figure out the rest. Together. It was a terrible idea. Going into enemy territory, trusting a stranger, exposing myself to an entire pack who might decide I was too valuable to let go. But the alternative was staying here, alone, untrained, with power I didn't understand and enemies I didn't know closing in. And something in me, something deep and instinctive, trusted Kieran. Even though I shouldn't. Even though it was dangerous. Even though everything logical screamed at me to run. Okay, I whispered. I'll come. The relief on his face was palpable. Thank you. But, I added, my voice steady despite my fear, if your pack tries to cage me, if anyone tries to control me or claim me or use me, I'll burn it all down. Phoenix power or not, I survived alone for over a year. I can survive anything. He smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from him. I believe you. Good. We leave at midday. My warriors will need to be prepared. And Sera? His expression turned serious. Don't tell anyone about the mate bond. Not my pack. Not anyone. If they know, it complicates things. I know, I said. I won't tell. Thank you. After he left, I stood in that clearing for a long time, my mother's pendant clutched in my hand. Queen. Phoenix heir. Mate to an alpha who was supposed to be my enemy. A week ago I'd been nobody. Just a throwaway living on ash crawlers. Now I was everything. And I had no idea if that was a blessing or a curse. Chapter 5. Crossing Shadows. Midday came too quickly. I'd spent the intervening hours trying to make myself presentable, a futile effort. Over a year in the Ashwood had left me looking more feral than civilized. My hair was matted with ash, my skin stained gray, my clothes nothing more than tattered rags held together by desperate stitching. But I'd done what I could. Washed in a stream until the water ran clear. Used a sharp rock to cut away the worst tangles in my hair. The phoenix pendant gleamed against my throat, the only clean thing about me. Kieran and his warriors were waiting at the agreed-upon meeting point. 8 wolves in human form, weapons strapped and ready, eyes wary as I approached. They knew something was different about me. I could see it in their faces, the way they wouldn't quite meet my eyes, the way they positioned themselves not threateningly but not casually either. Like I was dangerous. They weren't wrong. "Everyone," Kieran said, his voice carrying alpha authority, "this is Sera. She'll be traveling with us back to Pack Lands. She's under my personal protection. Anyone who threatens her answers to me." "Understood." "Yes, Alpha," they chorused, but I saw the questions in their eyes. The curiosity. The suspicion. One warrior, tall, with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow, stepped forward. "Alpha, if I may. We all saw what she did 2 nights ago. The power she displayed. Is she—" "That's not your concern," Kieran cut him off sharply. "All you need to know is that she's important and she's protected. The rest is Pack business." The warrior bowed his head in submission, but his eyes flicked to me with something between awe and fear. "Great. Nothing suspicious about that at all." We started walking. The journey to Shadow Pack territory would take 4 days, Kieran explained quietly as we moved through the forest. 4 days of traveling through neutral lands, then crossing the border into what had been enemy territory my entire life. 4 days to figure out if I just made the biggest mistake of my life. The warriors kept their distance as we walked, not hostile but wary. Like I was a wild thing they weren't sure was tame. Only Kieran stayed close, occasionally dropping back to walk beside me when the path widened. "You're quiet," he observed on the second day, "thinking about whether I'm walking into a trap." He didn't laugh, didn't reassure me with empty promises. Instead he said, "Smart. That's not comforting. It's honest." He glanced at me. "You don't know me, Sera. Don't know my pack. You're right to be cautious. But I swear on my fire, I will not let anyone hurt you. Not my pack. Not my father. Not anyone." "Your father is Alpha?" "Was. He stepped down 3 years ago. Made me Alpha when I turned 21. And he's going to be thrilled you're bringing home a Crimson Veil cast-off." "You're not Crimson Veil anymore," Kieran said firmly. "Your blood says otherwise." "Blood doesn't make pack," he said. "Loyalty does. Choice does. You chose to leave Crimson Veil behind when you survived alone. That makes you Drifter, free, unaffiliated. Is that what you'll tell your pack?" "It's what I'll make them understand." On the morning of the 4th day we reached the border. I could feel it, that same sense of crossing a threshold I'd felt leaving the Ashwood. But this was different. Stronger, more deliberate. Shadow Pack was powerful. I could feel it in the land itself, in the way the trees grew darker here, in the way shadows seemed deeper, more substantial. "Once we cross this line," Kieran said quietly, "you're in my territory. Under my protection, but also—" he hesitated. "Under Pack law. Which means my father will want to meet you. My council will have questions. And they won't all be friendly." "Why are you doing this?" I asked. "Really? You could have left me at the border, kept your pack safe from whatever threat I represent. Why risk it?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Because you saved my life. Because you're Phoenix-born and my grandmother told me stories about what happened when the Phoenix Queens died, how the packs descended into chaos, into war, into the brutal hierarchy that lets alphas throw away 8-year-old children for being different. Because maybe," his voice dropped, "maybe you're supposed to fix that. I'm 8 years old. You won't always be. And until then? Until then I keep you safe. I teach you. I help you grow into whatever you're meant to become." He met my eyes. "That's my oath to you. As an alpha. As your mate," I finished silently. "Okay," I said. "Let's do this." We crossed the border. Immediately I felt it. Pack bonds snapping into awareness like tripwires. Somewhere in the heart of Shadow Pack territory, wolves would be feeling the intrusion. A stranger in their lands, an unknown threat. They'd be coming. "How long before?" I started to ask. "They're already on their way," Kieran said grimly. "Hold position. Let me handle this." The pack arrived 15 minutes later. 60 wolves, maybe more, in human form but radiating enough power that I could feel their fires just beneath the surface. Warriors, border guards, protectors of pack lands who'd sensed an intruder and come running. At their head was a man who could only be Kieran's father. He had the same gray eyes, the same dark hair gone silver at the temples, the same powerful build. But where Kieran's face held gentleness beneath the strength, his father's held only iron. "Kieran." His voice was gravel-aged but no less commanding. "Explain." "Father. I bring a guest under my personal protection and alpha authority. A guest? The former alpha's eyes locked on me, and I felt the weight of his assessment, his power, his fire rising to test mine. A child. A small, underfed, ash-stained child you brought into our territory. Why? Because she saved my life, Kieran said. And the lives of 8 warriors when we were ambushed by drifters. That got reactions. Whispers spreading through the assembled wolves. 1 child against a drifter army? Impossible, Kieran's father, I needed to learn his name, said flatly. Disbelief colored his tone. She's not just any child, Kieran moved slightly, putting himself between me and his father. A protective gesture. She's Phoenix-born. Silence crashed over the assembled wolves like a physical weight. Then Kieran's father laughed. Not a joyful sound. A bitter, disbelieving sound that echoed off the trees. Phoenix-born, he repeated slowly. My son. My alpha. You bring a Phoenix-born child into our territory and announce it like you're presenting a new hunting hound. She saved my life, father, Kieran said, his voice hard. She saved 8 of our warriors when drifters ambushed us. She has power unlike anything I've ever witnessed. And yes, she's Phoenix-born, the bloodline everyone thought extinct. Impossible. But Kieran's father's eyes had shifted to me, assessing, calculating. I could feel his fire testing mine, trying to gauge my strength. The Phoenix line was hunted to extinction 35 years ago. Every heir, every distant relative, every fire blessed with even a drop of Phoenix blood was slaughtered in the purge. They missed one, I said quietly, finding my voice. My mother. She survived, went into hiding, had me in secret. And where is this mother now? Dead. She died birthing me. Kieran's father studied me with those same gray eyes Kieran had inherited. What pack? I hesitated. This was the moment. The truth that could turn them all against me. Crimson Vale, I whispered. The reaction was immediate. 60 Shadow Pack wolves tensed, hands moving to weapons, fires rising close to the surface, lips pulling back in instinctive snarls. Warriors positioned themselves between me and their pack mates, protecting their people from the enemy. From me. Crimson Vale, Kieran's father's voice had gone cold as winter. Our blood enemy for 4 generations. And you brought a Crimson Vale wolf into our territory. Are you trying to destroy us? She's not Crimson Vale anymore, Kieran said forcefully. They threw her away. Abandoned her in the Ashwood when she was 7 years old because she couldn't summon fire. They left her to die, father. They have no claim on her. Blood claim trumps abandonment in pack law, his father countered. She was born Crimson Vale. That makes her. Nothing, I interrupted, my voice stronger now. I was done being spoken about like I wasn't here, like I didn't matter. Crimson Vale Alpha himself severed all bonds when he walked away and left me to die. I am drifter, packless. And according to your own laws, that means I can choose my allegiance. I choose Shadow Pack. You choose. Kieran's father stopped himself, visibly controlling his anger. Child, you don't understand what you're asking. Phoenix blood makes you valuable beyond measure. Every pack in the territory will want to claim you, control you, use your power for their own ends. If word gets out that Shadow Pack is harboring you, we'll have war. Then don't let word get out, Kieran said. Keep her presence secret. Let me train her, teach her to control her power. She's 8 years old, father. She needs protection, not politics. She's a weapon, his father said bluntly. A phoenix who can command any fire blessed with a word? That's not a child to be protected. That's a strategic asset to be controlled. She's a person, Kieran growled, his fire rising behind his eyes. Not a weapon. Not an asset. A person who's been through hell and deserves a chance to heal. Father and son stared at each other, tension thick enough to cut. Finally, Kieran's father turned back to me. Show me, he demanded. Prove you're what he claims. Prove you have Phoenix blood. I didn't want to. Using that power felt dangerous, like opening a door I might not be able to close. But I also understood. These wolves needed proof. They needed to know this wasn't some elaborate deception. I took a breath and let the power rise. Everyone except Kieran and his father stepped back 10 paces. I said, putting just a thread of command into my voice. Every warrior, every watching wolf moved backward in perfect synchronization. Not because they chose to. Because they couldn't do anything else. I released them immediately, not wanting to hold the command longer than necessary. Kieran's father's eyes widened. Around the clearing, I heard gasps, whispers, the shuffle of wolves who just felt Phoenix authority for the first time. By the eternal flame, someone breathed. It's real. She's really Phoenix-born. But she's so young. Enough, Kieran's father commanded, silencing his pack. He looked at me with new eyes, not dismissive anymore but wary. Respectful. Phoenix blood confirmed. But that raises more questions than it answers. Before he could continue, an elderly voice called out from the back of the crowd. Let me through. Let me see her. The wolves parted and an old woman pushed forward. She moved with surprising speed despite her age, her eyes fixed on me with an intensity that made me want to step back. When she reached me, she didn't kneel like the others had. Instead, she cupped my face in her gnarled hands, tilting my head to catch the light. Your eyes, she murmured. Brown as turned earth. And this pendant? Her fingers brushed the phoenix at my throat. May I? I nodded, and she carefully unfastened it, holding it up to examine the inscription on the back that I'd never been able to read. Her hands started shaking. Grandmother, Kieran stepped closer, concerned. What is it? This is Queen Lyra's seal, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I know because I was there when Queen Asena gave it to her daughter on her 16th birthday. I was a young scholar in the Phoenix Queen's court. I saw this pendant blessed under the full moon. I watched Queen Lyra wear it every day until, she looked up at me with tears streaming down her face. Until the night of the purge. The night she disappeared. My mother's name was Lyra, I whispered. Your mother was Queen Lyra, she corrected. Fourth daughter of Queen Asena. The youngest. The one we thought died in the attack. Her voice broke. But she didn't die, did she? She escaped. She hid. She lived long enough to have you. She pulled me into a fierce hug and I felt her whole body shaking with sobs. We thought the line was broken, she whispered into my hair. We thought the Phoenix Queens were gone forever. But you're here. The granddaughter of Asena herself. The rightful Phoenix heir. When she released me, she turned to Kieran's father with fire in her eyes. You asked for proof, Roran? Here's your proof. This child carries Queen Asena's blood. She wears Queen Lyra's seal. She commands with Phoenix authority. And if you turn her away, if you let fear or old grudges dictate your actions, you'll be no better than the alphas who butchered the Phoenix Queens in the first place. Roran, so that was his name, looked like he'd been struck. Elara don't. Elara me? She snapped. I've known you since you were a pup, Roran Shadowborn. I taught you history. I told you stories about the Phoenix Queens and what the world lost when they died. And now one stands before you asking for protection. And you're considering politics. I'm considering survival, Roran said, but his voice had lost its edge. If the other packs learn we're harboring the Phoenix heir, then we'll deal with it, Kieran interrupted. Together. As a pack. But grandmother is right. We can't turn her away. It would be wrong. And more than that, it would be stupid. Phoenix Queens brought peace for centuries. Maybe, he looked at me. Maybe this is our chance to end the endless wars, the brutal hierarchies, the system that creates castaways and drifters and suffering. Roran was quiet for a long time. Finally he said, very well. She may stay. Under strict conditions. Her presence here remains secret. No one outside Shadow Pack learns she exists. She trains with our warriors, learns to control her power, and stays within our territory under guard. He looked at Kieran. And you take personal responsibility for her. Any trouble she causes, any danger her presence brings, it falls on you. Agreed, Kieran said without hesitation. Roran nodded once, then addressed the assembled pack. What you've witnessed here today is pack business. Confidential. Speak of it outside our borders and you'll be exiled. Am I clear? Yes, Alpha, 60 voices chorused. Good. Dismissed. Back to your post. We'll discuss this further at tonight's council meeting. As the crowd dispersed, Elara took my hand. Come, child. Let's get you properly settled. And then we have much to discuss. Starting with what it means to be Phoenix-born. I let her lead me away, my mind spinning. Queen Lyra. Queen Asena. Phoenix heir. A week ago I'd been nobody. Just a throwaway child living on ash crawlers in the Deadlands. Now I was everything. And I had no idea if that was a blessing or a curse. Chapter 6. The Scholar's Truth. Elara's cottage was exactly what I'd imagined a scholar's home would be. Small but crammed floor to ceiling with books, scrolls stacked on every surface, maps pinned to walls, the smell of old parchment and dried herbs and something cooking that made my stomach growl despite my nerves. Sit, she commanded, pointing to a worn chair by the hearth. Eat first. Then we'll talk. She placed a bowl of stew in front of me, real food, hot and rich, more than I'd eaten in weeks. I tried to be polite, tried to eat slowly like pack members did. I failed miserably. Ilara watched with sad, knowing eyes as I devoured the food like the starving creature I was. When I finally finished, she refilled the bowl without comment. "How long were you alone, child?" she asked gently. 14 months. Since I was 7. 7. Her voice hardened. "They threw you out at 7 years old. They thought I was defective. I couldn't summon fire. I was small and weak and my mother died birthing me, so everyone said it was my fault. That I'd stolen her flame. That I stopped, the old words catching in my throat. Worthless," Ilara finished quietly. "They told you that you were worthless." I nodded, not trusting my voice. "Fools," she spat. "Ignorant, cruel fools who wouldn't recognize phoenix blood if it burned them. Of course you couldn't summon fire at 7. Phoenix-born don't manifest flames until puberty. Sometimes not until their mid-teens. Your body needs time to mature enough to handle the power. But modern alphas don't remember that. Don't care to learn the old ways. So they discard what they don't understand. You're saying I will summon fire? Eventually? Yes. Probably within the next few years. And when you do," she smiled, and there was something fierce in her expression, "your flames will be magnificent. Not red or orange like common fire-blessed. Phoenix flames burn white-hot, hotter than any forge, capable of melting stone. And your smoke," she gestured to my hands. "That's not a weakness. That's your primary gift manifesting early." "My smoke is a gift?" "Phoenix-born are masters of smoke before they master flame," Ilara explained. "Smoke is what allows you to command other fire-blessed. It suffocates their flames, makes their power submit to yours. That's why those drifters fled. That's why Kieran's warriors couldn't resist your order. Your smoke overrides their fire." I stared at my hands like they belonged to someone else. I thought I was broken. "You were never broken," Ilara said fiercely. "You were phoenix-born in a world that had forgotten what that meant. But you survived. You adapted. You became strong in ways they'll never understand." She stood and pulled an ancient book from the shelf, leather-bound, pages yellowed with age. She opened it carefully, showing me an illustration of a figure wreathed in smoke and flame, wings spreading behind them. "This is Queen Asena," Ilara said softly. "Your grandmother. The last phoenix queen before the purge." The woman in the illustration was beautiful. Sharp features, copper hair, eyes that seemed to glow even in the faded drawing. She wore a crown that looked like frozen flames, and beneath her feet, packs of fire-blessed knelt in submission. "What happened to her?" I asked. Ilara's expression darkened. "Greed, pride, fear. About 40 years ago, several powerful alphas began to resent Phoenix authority. They wanted to return to the old ways, brutal dominance without oversight. They formed a secret coalition, building support among other alphas who felt constrained by Phoenix law. And then they struck." Her voice caught. "They attacked the Phoenix Palace in the dead of night. Killed Queen Asena in her chambers. Killed her sons, her daughters, hunted down every known heir, every distant relative, every fire-blessed with even a trace of Phoenix blood. It was systematic, brutal, thorough. They thought they'd eliminated the bloodline forever. But they missed my mother. Because Queen Lyra wasn't in the palace that night. She was visiting Crimson Vale, your birth pack, as part of a diplomatic mission. When news of the massacre reached her, she went into hiding. Changed her name to something common. Lived as a low-ranking firecaller. Never told anyone what she truly was. And then she had me," I said quietly. "And then she had you." Ilara reached across the table, taking my hand. "But childbirth is uniquely dangerous for Phoenix-born. The power required to bring another Phoenix into the world, it takes everything. Your mother gave her life to give you yours. And she left you that pendant so that someday when you were ready, you'd know who you really were." Tears burned in my eyes. "Everyone always said I killed her. That I stole her strength. They were wrong," Ilara said fiercely. "Your mother chose to have you, knowing the risks. Chose to ensure the Phoenix bloodline survived, even if she couldn't. That was love, Sera. The greatest love a mother can show. Never think otherwise." I wiped my eyes roughly, trying to hold myself together. "What happens now? What am I supposed to do?" Ilara smiled. "Now you learn. You're 8 years old. You have years before you need to worry about ruling packs or fulfilling destinies. Right now you just need to grow. To become strong enough to protect yourself when the world inevitably discovers you exist." "And Kieran?" I asked, my cheeks heating slightly. "Everyone keeps looking at us strangely." Ilara's eyes gleamed with knowing amusement. "You tell me, child. What do you feel when you're near him?" I didn't know how to explain it. "Safe. and terrified, and like I'm coming home and running away at the same time. And his scent makes me, I stopped embarrassed. Makes you feel things you're too young to understand, Ilara finished gently. That's the mate bond, Sera. But that's impossible. I'm 8. The mate bond doesn't manifest until both parties have transformed and reached maturity. Usually yes. But you're not a usual fire-blessed. You're phoenix-born. And sometimes, very rarely, the mate bond manifests early when the pairing is crucial. When the eternal flame knows that two souls need to find each other long before they're ready to claim each other. It's protection, guidance, insurance that you'll be together when the time comes. Does he feel it? Oh yes. That's why he's so protective. Why he brought you here despite the danger. His fire recognized you as his mate the moment he saw you. But he's a good man. He won't act on it until you're grown. Until you're ready. How long? Years, Ilara said honestly. You're 8. He's 24. The age gap won't matter when you're 25 and he's 41. But right now you're a child. He knows that. Everyone knows that. The bond will wait. What if I don't want to wait? Then you'll wait anyway, Ilara said firmly. Because that's what's right. What's safe. You can acknowledge the bond exists. Can accept that he's your destined mate. But you cannot act on it until you're old enough to make that choice with a clear mind. Understand? I nodded reluctantly. Good. Ilara stood, pulling more books from the shelves. Now, let's begin your real education. You need to know Phoenix history, Phoenix law, and most importantly, how to control your power. Because right now you're a weapon without training, and that's dangerous for everyone. We spent the rest of the day buried in books and lessons. I learned about the 7 Phoenix queens who'd ruled before Queen Asena. I learned about Phoenix gifts, smoke command, flame summoning, emotional sensing, truth detection. I learned about pack politics and ancient laws and the delicate balance between alpha strength and Phoenix wisdom. My head spun with information. But I absorbed every word like I was dying of thirst and she was water. Because this knowledge, this power, this identity, was mine. Finally, after all these years of being nobody, I was somebody. You're exhausted, Ilara observed as the sun began to set. Enough for today. We'll continue tomorrow. Thank you, I said quietly. For teaching me. For believing me. I'm not teaching you anything you don't already know deep down, she said, smiling. I'm just helping you remember what your blood has always known. Now let's get you to your quarters. Kieran arranged for you to have a room in the pack house, near his chambers where he can keep you safe. Near his chambers. The mate bond hummed at that thought, satisfied and yearning in equal measure. This was going to be complicated. My room was small but clean, a real bed, a window overlooking the forest, a chest for belongings I didn't have. It was more luxury than I'd known in over a year. I was examining the space when someone knocked on the door. Come in, I called. Kieran entered, carrying a bundle of clothes. Ilara said you might need these. They're from some of our younger pack members. Should fit reasonably well. Thank you. He set them on the bed, then turned to leave. But he paused at the door, his hand on the frame. How are you doing? He asked quietly. Really? Tired? Overwhelmed? Stronger than I've ever been. Terrified of what comes next. I looked at him. Grateful you found me. I'm grateful you let me, he said. His eyes held mine for a long moment, the mate bond singing between us. Sera, I meant what I said. I'll keep you safe. From everyone. Including? He stopped himself. Including yourself? I finished. Yes. His voice was rough. This bond, it's not going to be easy. For either of us. But I won't cross lines that shouldn't be crossed. You have my word. I know. Good. He started to turn then stopped again. Sleep well. Training starts tomorrow. And fair warning, Commander Ash doesn't go easy on anyone, even Phoenix heirs. After he left, I changed into the clean clothes, soft fabric that didn't scratch, that fit properly, that made me feel almost human again. I lay in the real bed in the real room and stared at the ceiling. A week ago, I'd been sleeping in a cave in the Ashwood, convinced I'd die alone and forgotten. Now I was in Shadowpack territory, learning to be a queen, bound to an alpha who made my heart race and my smoke stir. Everything had changed so fast. I touched the phoenix pendant at my throat, warm as always, pulsing with that steady rhythm, and whispered into the darkness, I hope I don't disappoint you, Mother. I hope I can be what they need me to be. The pendant pulsed warmer, and I chose to believe that was an answer. Chapter 7. Forged in Smoke. The next 6 months became a blur of learning and growing and transforming. Every morning I trained with Shadowpack warriors. Commander Ash, a massive, scarred woman with one milky eye and a reputation for never accepting surrender, became my primary combat instructor. "You can command fire blessed," she said during our first session, circling me like a predator. "But you need to be able to fight too. Not every threat will be fire-shaped. And even with your power, there will be moments when you're vulnerable, moments when smoke won't save you. I'm going to teach you to protect yourself." She was brutal. Relentless. She threw me into the dirt so many times I lost count. Made me run until I collapsed, fight until my knuckles bled, climb until my fingers cramped and refused to grip. But I got stronger. My body, which had been wire-thin from starvation, began to fill out with muscle. My reflexes sharpened. My endurance grew. And slowly, painfully, I learned to fight. Not like the warriors, I'd never have their size or raw strength. But I learned to use speed, agility, misdirection. Learned to target weak points, to turn an opponent's momentum against them, to survive long enough to use my smoke. In the afternoons I studied with Alara. History, politics, law, magic. She taught me everything she knew about being Phoenix-born, about the responsibilities and privileges and terrible burden of power. But most importantly, she taught me to control my gifts. "Your smoke command is your most obvious power," she explained one day. "But it's not your only one. Phoenix-born are empaths. We feel what others feel, sense truth and lies, connect with the natural world in ways common fire-blessed can't. I've always been able to do that," I admitted. "Feel emotions, sense when people are lying." The Ashwood spoke to me when I was alone, told me where to find shelter, warned me of danger. "That's your Phoenix gift awakening early. Now we need to refine it, learn to control it instead of just reacting to it." She taught me meditation, how to extend my awareness outward, feeling the emotions of those around me without being overwhelmed. How to sense the health of plants and animals. How to communicate with the earth itself the way my ancestors had. It was exhausting. Overwhelming. Some days I wanted to quit, to run back to the simple life in the Ashwood where all I had to worry about was finding food and avoiding predators. But I didn't quit. Because every day I could feel myself becoming more, stronger, more confident, more capable of handling whatever the world would throw at me. My 9th birthday came and went with little fanfare. I marked it by successfully commanding 40 wolves simultaneously without collapsing afterward. A new record. Kieran was there, watching from the edge of the training circle, pride clear in his gray eyes. We developed a careful friendship over the months. He respected my age, never crossing lines, never making me uncomfortable. But he was always there, checking on my progress, celebrating my victories, supporting me through failures. The mate bond hummed between us constantly now. Not demanding, not overwhelming. Just there. Present. Waiting. One evening about 7 months after I'd arrived at Vale Pack, I found him sitting alone by the lake that bordered Pack territory. "Mind if I join you?" I asked. He smiled and patted the ground beside him. "Never." I sat, and for a while we just watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and red, fire colors that reminded me of what I still couldn't summon. "How are you doing?" he asked finally. "Really? Tired? Overwhelmed? Stronger than I've ever been. Terrified of what comes next." I looked at him. "Grateful you found me." "I'm grateful you let me," he said quietly. We sat in comfortable silence and I felt the pull to lean against him, to close that distance between us. But I knew I couldn't. Not yet. Maybe not for years. "Do you ever think about them?" Kieran asked. "Crimson Vale Pack? Your father?" "Sometimes," I admitted. "I wonder if they've heard the rumors. If they know I'm alive. I stopped. "If they regret it," Kieran finished. "Yeah. For what it's worth, I hope they're drowning in regret. What they did to you was unforgivable." "Maybe," I said. "But if they hadn't abandoned me, I never would have survived alone. Never would have discovered my power. Never would have become who I am. In a weird way, they gave me the greatest gift possible. They forced me to become strong." "That's a very Phoenix thing to say," Kieran observed with a small smile. "Is that good or bad?" "Good. It means you're thinking like a queen, seeing the bigger picture, understanding that sometimes terrible things lead to necessary growth." I did lean against his shoulder then, carefully aware that even this small contact made the mate bond flare warm and bright. He went still and I felt his breath catch, felt the restraint it took for him not to pull me closer. "Do you ever regret it?" I asked quietly. "Bringing me here? Your pack is in danger because of me. If word gets out." "It won't," he said firmly. "And even if it does, we'll handle it. Together." "Together," I agreed, liking the sound of that word. We sat there as the sun set completely and stars emerged, and for that moment everything felt right. Like maybe I really could do this. Like maybe being Phoenix-born wasn't just burden, it was purpose. It started with small things. Strangers appearing at Shadow Pack borders asking questions. Drifters passing through neutral territory, spreading stories about a smoke-wreathed girl with impossible power. Pack scouts from neighboring territories getting bolder, venturing closer to Shadowlands than they should. Someone was looking for me. Someone had heard the rumors and was putting pieces together. "It's getting worse," Commander Ash reported during a pack council meeting I'd been invited to attend. 4 different packs have sent diplomats in the last month, all asking about increased drifter activity in our territory, all trying to get information about why we've suddenly become so protective of our borders. "They're fishing," Roran said grimly. "They've heard something. They just don't know what yet." "We need to be more careful," another council member suggested. "Maybe send the girl away. Hide her somewhere less obvious." "No," Kieran said flatly. "She stays here. Under our protection." "Under your protection," the council member corrected. "You've made her your personal responsibility, Alpha. But what happens when that responsibility puts the entire pack at risk?" Before Kieran could respond, I stood. "I'll leave." Everyone turned to stare at me. "If my presence here endangers Shadow Pack, I'll go," I said quietly. "I've survived alone before. I can do it again." "Sit down," Kieran commanded, his alpha voice brooking no argument. To my surprise, I found myself sitting before I'd decided to. The alpha voice still worked on me, not for commands about my safety but apparently for other things. He gentled his tone. "You're not going anywhere. We knew this might happen when I brought you here. We prepared for it. And we're not going to panic at the first sign of interest from other packs. But..." "No buts." He looked around the council table. "This isn't up for debate. Sera is under Shadow Pack protection. Period. If other packs want to make something of it, let them come. We'll deal with it." "Easy to say when it's not your children who'll die in the fighting," someone muttered. "It is my pack," Kieran said, his voice hard now. "My responsibility. My decision. And I'm telling you, we stand together or we fall apart. Which is it going to be?" One by one, the council members bowed their heads in submission. "We stand with you, Alpha." The meeting ended, but the tension remained. 2 weeks later, everything changed. I was in the forest practicing my abilities, trying to sense animals from greater distances, trying to communicate more clearly with the earth, when I felt it. A presence. Watching. Not animals. Not Shadow Pack wolves. Someone else. I spun around, searching the trees, my heart hammering. Smoke leaked from my fingertips. Ready? A figure stepped out from behind an oak. Male, young, maybe 18 or 19. Dark hair, amber eyes, and a scent that made my blood run cold. Crimson Vale Pack. "Well, well," he said, his voice rough with barely controlled fire. "The rumors are true. Little Sera's alive. And here in enemy territory." "Who are you?" I demanded, forcing my voice to stay steady. "Doesn't matter. What matters is that Alpha Kane is going to be very interested to learn where his lost child ended up." He smiled, showing teeth. "He's been looking for you, you know? Ever since stories started spreading about a smoke-blessed girl with Phoenix power." He put it together pretty quickly, the timing, the age, the description. "And he's not happy about what he threw away." "He doesn't get to be unhappy," I said, my voice hardening. "He made his choice. And now he wants to correct his mistake. Claim what's rightfully his." "I'm not his anything. Blood says otherwise, pup." The scout took a step closer. "But don't worry. Alpha Kane just wants to talk. To welcome you home. To give you the life you should have had." "I don't believe you." "Smart girl. Because what he really wants is your power. A Phoenix heir under his control, that would make Crimson Vale unstoppable. We could conquer every territory from here to the western coasts." "I'll never help you," I said flatly. "We'll see." He started backing away, melting into the forest. "Tell your Shadow Pack wolves that war is coming. And this time, we're not leaving until we have what we came for." Then he was gone. I ran faster than I'd ever run, terror and adrenaline giving me speed I didn't know I had. I had to warn them. Had to tell Kieran that Crimson Vale knew. That they were coming. That everything was about to fall apart. I burst into pack land screaming for Kieran, for Ash, for anyone who could help. Warriors appeared within seconds, weapons drawn, surrounding me protectively. "What happened?" Kieran demanded, suddenly there, his hands on my shoulders. "Are you hurt?" "Crimson Vale," I gasped out. "Scout in the forest. He knows." Kane knows I'm here. He's coming. He said war is coming and they won't leave until. I didn't need to finish. Everyone understood. Sound the alarm, Kieran commanded. All warriors to defensive positions. Send runners to allied packs. And someone get my father. We need a war council. Now. As wolves scattered to obey, Kieran pulled me close, his arms wrapping around me in a protective embrace that was probably inappropriate but that I desperately needed. It's going to be okay, he said quietly. We'll protect you. They're coming because of me, I said, my voice breaking. Because I'm here. This is my fault. This is Kane's fault for being a greedy bastard who can't accept that he threw away something valuable. Kieran pulled back, lifting my chin to force me to meet his eyes. We've been preparing for this. We knew it might happen. And I swear to you, I will not let him take you. No matter what it costs. What if it costs your pack? Your people? Then that's a price we're willing to pay. Because protecting you is the right thing to do. And more than that, his eyes flashed gold with his fire. You're mine. My mate. My responsibility. And I protect what's mine. I'm not. You are, he said fiercely. You've been mine since the moment I saw you. The eternal flame marked you for me, and I will die before I let anyone take you away. Before I could respond, horns sounded across the territory. The warning signal. Enemy at the borders. Crimson Vale Pack had arrived. And they'd brought an army. Chapter 8, The Battle for Shadow Pack. I'd never seen so many fire blessed in one place. From the watchtower where Kieran had ordered me to stay, safe, protected. Where I can fight without worrying about you. I could see the Crimson Vale forces assembled at our border. Hundreds of them. Maybe more. Not just Crimson Vale Pack either. I could see the colors and scents of at least 4 other allied packs. Kane had called in favors, made promises, built a coalition. All to get me back. This is insane, I breathed. This is politics, Ilara said beside me. She'd refused to leave my side, insisting that if I was staying in the watchtower, she was staying with me. Alpha Kane isn't just trying to reclaim you. He's making a statement, showing other packs that he's powerful enough to demand what he wants from Shadow Pack. Win or lose, this battle changes the balance of power in the territory. People are going to die because of me. People are going to die because Alpha Kane is a greedy fool, Ilara corrected. Don't take responsibility for his choices, child. Below, I could see Kieran organizing defensive positions. His gray eyes flashed gold as he partially transformed, his fire lending him strength and authority. Roran stood beside him, and despite their differences, father and son moved in perfect synchronization. They were outnumbered at least 4-1. We can't win this, I said quietly. Even I can see that. Depends on your definition of winning, Ilara said. If winning means killing every enemy wolf, then no. But if winning means holding the line until reinforcements arrive, until Kane realizes the cost is too high, until we make him understand that taking you isn't worth what he'll lose, she smiled grimly. That's very possible. A horn sounded from the Crimson Vale lines. Alpha Kane himself stepped forward, his massive form imposing even in human shape. His scarred face showed calculation, greed. Shadow Pack, his voice carried across the distance, amplified by fire magic. I come for what is mine. Return the Crimson Vale child you've been harboring and we leave peacefully. Resist and we take her by force. Kieran's response was immediate. She's not yours, Kane. You threw her away. You have no claim. Blood claim trumps abandonment. Kane's fire flared around him. She was born Crimson Vale. That makes her ours. She's a child you left to die, Kieran roared, his own fire rising. You don't get to change your mind now that she's valuable. Then we do this the hard way. Kane's form shimmered, his fire rising to the surface. Attack. The Crimson Vale forces charged. Shadow Pack warriors met them at the border in a clash of fire and steel and screams that shook the earth. I couldn't look away, couldn't breathe. Below me wolves were fighting, bleeding, dying. For me. I saw Commander Ash take a brutal blow from a massive Crimson Vale warrior. She staggered, flames licking at her armor, and a second strike sent her sword flying. She was disarmed, defenseless, and the enemy warrior raised his blade for the killing blow. I screamed, but my voice was lost in the chaos. Then I saw Kieran. He wasn't just fighting, he was a force of nature. A whirlwind of gray fire and steel. But even he was being overwhelmed. 5 wolves circled him, and I watched in horror as a 6th came from behind, flames aimed for his unprotected back. He was the heart of their defense. If he fell, the entire line would collapse. They were going to die. All of them. For me. I have to stop this, I said, moving toward the ladder. Alara grabbed my arm. Kieran ordered you to stay here where it's safe. Nothing about this is safe, Alara. I can end this. I can. You can what? Command them all to stop? Child, there are hundreds of wolves down there. You've never commanded more than 40 at once. Trying to control this many could burn you out. Kill you. Better me than them. Kieran would never forgive himself if you died protecting his pack. Neither would I. She held my arm firmly. Wait. Watch. Trust that he knows what he's doing. So I watched. I watched Kieran tear through enemy wolves with brutal efficiency, his gray eyes blazing, his movements a blur of controlled violence. I watched Roran hold the left flank, his experience and power evident in every calculated strike. I watched Shadow Pack warriors fall, get back up, fall again. And I felt every injury, every death. The Phoenix gift made me feel their pain, their fear, their desperation. It was killing me to just stand there. Then I saw him. A massive red-furred wolf had broken through the defensive line, was racing toward the watchtower. Toward me. Alara, I said, my voice tight. I see him. She moved in front of me, her old body trembling but determined. Stay behind me. The wolf reached the tower and shifted mid-leap, landing on the platform in human form. It was my father. I barely recognized him. The years hadn't been kind, more gray in his hair, more lines in his face, his eyes harder than I remembered. But those brown eyes were the same. The same eyes I saw in my reflection. Sera, he said, his voice rough. Come home. Please. This doesn't have to continue. Just come with me and it's over. You're not my father, I said, my voice steady despite my terror. You stopped being my father the day you walked away. I did what I thought was right. You were draining pack resources, endangering us by refusing to manifest. I made the hard choice. You made the easy choice, I corrected. The hard choice would have been keeping me, teaching me, giving me time. But you took the easy way out and convinced yourself it was noble. His face hardened. I'm not here to argue. You're coming with me. No. Willingly or not. He lunged. Alara stepped between us, her frail body no match for his strength. He shoved her aside carelessly and she went down with a sickening crack. Alara. I dropped to my knees beside her, my hands already glowing with smoke-touched healing power. Her hip was broken, her breathing shallow. I'm okay, she gasped. Stop him. Use your power. My father grabbed my arm, yanking me up. Enough. We're leaving. And something inside me snapped. Not my fear. Not my restraint. My power. It exploded out of me like a shockwave, pure Phoenix authority flowing from every cell, amplified by rage and terror and desperate love for the people who'd protected me. Stop. The word echoed across the entire battlefield with the force of a thunderclap. Every fire-blessed, Crimson Vale, Shadow Pack, allied packs, everyone froze mid-strike. Total, absolute, complete submission. In the sudden silence, my voice rang out clear and undeniable. I said stop. I could feel the strain, feel my power stretched impossibly thin, trying to hold hundreds of wolves. Alara was right. This was too much. I couldn't maintain it. But I didn't need long. Just long enough to make them listen. My name is Sera, I said, my voice carrying to every wolf on that battlefield. I was born to Crimson Vale Pack. Yes, they threw me away when I was 7 years old. Left me in the Ashwood to die because I couldn't summon fire. Because I seemed weak. Because keeping me was inconvenient. I walked to the edge of the platform where everyone could see me, where they couldn't miss the smoke curling from my hands, the power radiating off me in waves. But I survived. And while I survived, I discovered something interesting. I'm not just some defective child. I'm Phoenix-born. Granddaughter of Queen Asena herself. The last heir of the Phoenix bloodline that everyone thought extinct. Gasps spread through the frozen warriors. Fear. So here's what's going to happen, I continued, feeling the strain building, knowing I couldn't hold this much longer. You're all going to back away from each other. You're going to stop fighting. And you're going to listen to what I have to say. Because I'm Phoenix-born and that means you don't get a choice. I released the command partially, enough that they could move and breathe but not fight. Alpha Cain shifted to human form, his face a mixture of shock and avarice. Phoenix-born, he breathed. I had a Phoenix heir and I threw her away. Yes, I said coldly. You did. And now you want me back. But not because you care about me. Because I'm useful. Powerful. A tool you can use to conquer other packs. That's not. Don't lie to me, I interrupted, letting smoke curl around him threateningly. I can sense truth in lies. It's part of the Phoenix gift. You want my power. You want to control me. But here's the thing, Cain. I let my power flare again, making every wolf on that field drop to their knees. I can't be controlled. I answer to no alpha. I'm above all of you in the hierarchy that matters. I'm Phoenix-born. I turn to address all the assembled wolves. This is the last time I'm going to say this. I'm not Crimson Vale Pack. I'm not Shadow Pack. I am not anyone's property or anyone's tool. I am Phoenix-born and I choose where my loyalty lies. Right now I choose Shadow Pack. Because they protected me when I had nothing. Because they helped me understand my power. Because they see me as a person instead of a weapon. But that choice is mine. No one else's. You're a child. Someone from the Crimson Vale forces called out. You can't make decisions like that. You need pack protection, pack guidance. I've been making life and death decisions since I was 7 years old. I shot back. I survived alone in one of the most dangerous territories in the region. I fought off predators, learned to hunt and heal and protect myself. I don't need anyone's protection. I'm offering my alliance to Shadow Pack because I choose to. Because they earned it. I looked at Cain. The question is, what are you going to do about it? He stared at me for a long moment, calculation warring with pride on his face. Then, slowly he bowed his head. We withdraw, he said quietly. But this isn't over, pup. Other packs will hear about you. They'll come. And some won't be as diplomatic as I'm being. Let them come, I said with more confidence than I felt. I'll deal with them the same way I'm dealing with you. The Crimson Vale forces retreated. Slowly at first, then faster as they realized I wasn't going to attack. Within minutes, the battlefield was clear except for Shadow Pack wolves. The moment they were gone, I collapsed. The power drain was catastrophic. I'd pushed too far, held too many wolves, demanded too much of myself. Darkness rushed in, swallowing everything. The last thing I felt was Kieran catching me as I fell, his voice rough with fear and pride and something that sounded like love. You magnificent, terrifying, impossible girl. What am I going to do with you? Then, nothing. Chapter 9, Awakening. I woke 4 days later. The first thing I saw was Kieran's face, haggard with exhaustion, his gray eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep, stubble darkening his jaw. You're awake, he breathed, and the relief in his voice was palpable. Thank the eternal flame you're awake. How long? My voice came out as a croak, my throat raw. 4 days. You burned yourself out commanding that many wolves. Elara said you were lucky to be alive. Most Phoenix-born would have died from the power drain. Elara, I tried to sit up, remembering. Is she? She's fine. You healed her hip before you collapsed. She's been by your bedside almost as much as I have, threatening to physically remove me so you could rest properly. Relief washed through me. And the pack? The battle? 32 injured, none critically. 7 dead. His voice hardened. All because Cain decided he wanted his throwaway child back. I'm sorry. Don't. He grabbed my hand. Don't apologize for existing. Don't take responsibility for his greed. You saved hundreds of lives by stopping that battle when you did. Yes, we lost warriors. But if the fighting had continued, we would have lost so many more. But now everyone knows what I am. Yes. He couldn't deny it. Cain's forces saw your power, heard your declaration. By now, every pack within 200 miles knows there's a Phoenix heir alive. And they're all going to want to meet you. Test you. Potentially try to claim you or kill you, depending on their political leanings. That's not great. No, he agreed. Which is why we need to be proactive. We need to establish you publicly. Show the packs that you're real, that you're powerful, and that you're not going to be controlled or eliminated. We need to make them come to you on your terms, not attack us on theirs. How? A gathering, Elara said, entering the room with a tray of broth. A formal gathering of all the packs in the territory. Ancient tradition, hasn't been called in decades. But if you, the Phoenix heir, call it, they have to come. Pack law demands it. And then what? I asked. I show them my power and hope they decide I'm too dangerous to attack? Essentially yes, Elara said. You demonstrate your Phoenix gifts. You command them. You prove beyond doubt that the bloodline has returned. And then you offer them a choice, accept Phoenix rule returning or face the consequences of rebellion. I'm 9 years old. You're Phoenix-born, she corrected. Age doesn't matter when you have the blood. It matters to me, I said quietly. I'm not ready to rule packs. I don't know how. I don't. Then you learn, Kieran said firmly. You learn fast. Because ready or not, this is happening. The other packs are already mobilizing. Within a month, There will be representatives from every major pack at our borders demanding to see you. We can let them come here chaotically, putting Shadow Pack at risk, or we can organize a formal gathering on neutral ground where we have some control. How long do I have? 3 months, Elara said. That's how long it takes to send word to all the packs, allow them to select representatives and travel to the gathering point. 3 months to prepare you. 3 months to transform from a 9-year-old survivor into someone the packs would accept as their phoenix. No pressure at all. You can do this, Kieran said, his voice intense. I've watched you grow stronger every day for the past 7 months. I've seen you command warriors twice your age, heal injuries that should have been fatal, survive things that would have broken grown wolves. You're ready for this. You just don't know it yet. I wanted to believe him. Wanted to think I could stand before dozens of alphas and convince them to accept my authority. But I was 9 years old and terrified. Okay, I said, taking a shaky breath. Then let's get started. The next 3 months were the hardest of my life. Every morning I trained with Commander Ash and the warriors, learning to fight better, to defend myself against multiple opponents, to use my small size as an advantage instead of a weakness. Every afternoon I studied with Elara, Phoenix law, pack politics, ancient traditions, how to speak with authority, how to project power without aggression, how to read a room and sense deception. Every evening I practiced with my gifts, commanding larger groups of wolves, healing more complex injuries, sensing emotions from greater distances, connecting with fire and smoke and the world around me. And through it all, Kieran was there. Supporting, teaching, protecting. The mate bond grew stronger every day. Not demanding, not sexual, I was still too young for that. But deep. Profound. The kind of connection where I knew what he was feeling without asking, where he knew what I needed before I spoke. My 10th birthday passed during training. I marked it by successfully commanding 70 wolves simultaneously without collapsing. Progress. I also marked it quietly, privately, by sitting with Kieran under the full moon and acknowledging out loud what we both knew. You're my mate, I said. My true mate. The eternal flame chose you for me. I know, he said quietly. I've known since the moment I saw you. I'm not ready. I know that too. And I'm willing to wait. Years if necessary. Until you're grown, until you're ready, until you choose me, not because the mate bond demands it but because you want to. I already want to, I admitted. But you're right. I need time. Need to grow into who I'm supposed to be before I can be someone's mate. Then take all the time you need, he said, pulling me close in a carefully respectful embrace. I'm not going anywhere. I may not have flames yet, I said, my voice carrying on the smoke. But I have something more important. I have smoke that sees what fire cannot. That flows where fire cannot reach. That connects all fire-blessed whether they want it or not. And when my flames do manifest, I let the smoke glow brighter, showing them the power sleeping beneath. They'll be unlike anything you've ever seen. I pulled the smoke back, releasing them. No one spoke. Then Elara stepped forward. The Phoenix heir has proven herself. She commands. She heals. She carries the royal blood. And when her transformation completes, she will be the most powerful Phoenix born in 3 generations. The only question is, will you accept her rule? Or will you force her to take it? The challenge hung in the air. Finally, Alpha Theron bowed his head. I accept, he said quietly. 4 Silvercrest Pack, we accept Phoenix authority. One by one, other alphas began to bow. Not all of them, some looked mutinous, calculating, still deciding. But enough. More than half. All hail the Phoenix heir, someone called out. All hail Phoenix-born Sera. The chant spread, grew until hundreds of voices cried my name. I'd done it. Claimed my place. Now I just had to figure out how to keep it. Chapter 10. Coronation. The formal coronation happened 1 month later under the full moon in the ancient Phoenix Queen's sacred grove. The grove itself was breathtaking. Massive ancient trees forming a natural cathedral, their branches creating patterns that caught moonlight and threw silver-white shadows across moss-covered ground. According to Elara, this was where every Phoenix Queen had been crowned for 600 years before the Purge. Until the bloodline was thought extinct. Until now. I was 9 years old, and I was about to be crowned queen of every fire-blessed pack in the territory. The ceremony was ancient, unchanged for centuries. Elara had drilled the words into me for weeks, but standing there in the moonlight with hundreds of wolves watching, I felt the weight of history pressing down. I knelt before the Council of Elders, 12 fire-blessed representing every major pack, every region, every tradition. Elara performed the ritual, her voice strong despite her age. Do you swear to protect the vulnerable? I do, I said clearly. Do you swear to unite the divided? I do. Do you swear to rule with wisdom and justice? To balance mercy with strength? To remember always that your power is a gift meant to serve, not to dominate? I do. And I meant it with every fiber of my being. She placed the phoenix crown on my head, copper woven with obsidian, ancient and beautiful and heavy with responsibility. Rise, Phoenix Queen Sera, first of her name, keeper of the eternal flame. Bridge between smoke and fire. I stood, and every wolf in that grove bowed. Kieran stood at my right hand, not as my subordinate, as my equal. My chosen mate. My future. The Phoenix Queen has risen, Ilara announced, her voice ringing through the grove. Let the old ways return. Let balance be restored. Let peace reign once more. The celebration lasted 3 days. But on the 4th day the real work began. Chapter 11, The Queen's Justice. My first official act as Phoenix Queen was to abolish the law that allowed packs to abandon children. From this day forward, I announced to the assembled pack alphas in my first formal council, no fire blessed under the age of 13 may be exiled, abandoned, or executed for failure to manifest expected abilities. Phoenix-born and other late manifestors exist. We will not punish children for developing differently. But what about true defectives? Alpha Cain protested. He'd been allowed to keep his position, though his power was significantly diminished. Fire-blessed who will never manifest? Who drain pack resources without contributing. Then packs will support them, I said firmly. Find them other roles: healer, teacher, caretaker, scout. There are dozens of ways to contribute besides fighting. Or are you telling me strength is the only thing of value in your pack? He had no answer. Over my first year as Phoenix Queen, I passed 19 new laws. Protection for omegas from forced mating. Fair treatment standards for betas. Restrictions on alpha authority over non-warriors. Requirements that all packs provide education to children. Healthcare standards. Fair distribution of resources. And more. Some alphas resisted, tried to maintain the old brutal ways. I made examples of the worst offenders, not through violence, through shame. I visited their territories personally, showed their pack members what true Phoenix authority looked like, gave Fireblessed who'd been oppressed the courage to speak up. 4 alpha bloodlines ended in my first year because their packs chose to follow me instead of them. I was ruthless about justice. And slowly, painfully the packs began to change. Chapter 12, 7 years later. Time moved differently when you were Phoenix Queen. Days blurred into weeks, into months, into years. The constant demands of ruling, settling disputes, making laws, enforcing justice, teaching young Phoenix-born who manifested their gifts, consumed everything. But through it all, Kieran was there. At my side. My partner. My constant. The mate bond grew stronger every year, deeper, more essential. And when I turned 16, finally old enough, we completed it. The ceremony was private. Just us, Ilara, Roran, and the full moon as witness. When the mate bond finally snapped fully into place, when our fires merged completely, Kieran pulled me close with a reverence that stole my breath. Finally, he whispered. I've been waiting 9 years for this. Was it worth it? I asked. Every single second. We built something together. Not dominance, not submission. True partnership. He handled military strategy and pack defense. I handled law and healing and justice. Together we created a system that actually worked. Balance between strength and compassion, between alpha force and phoenix wisdom. When I was 18 we had our first child. A daughter born under the full moon, screaming with power, her eyes already showing hints of copper gold. We named her Lyra after my mother. She had the phoenix gift. I felt it the moment she was born, that same healing warmth, that same commanding presence sleeping in her tiny body. The bloodline would continue. When I was 23, Alpha Cain died. Old age and the weight of watching his world change around him. His son, who'd been a young warrior during my abandonment, took over Crimson Vale Pack. His first act was to come to me and bend knee. I'm not my father, he said. I don't want to fight the new order. I want to be part of it. To help build the world you're creating. The one my father was too stubborn to see. Then welcome, I said, pulling him to his feet. We have much work to do. By my 28th birthday, the fire-blessed world was almost unrecognizable from the one I'd been born into. Children were protected. Omegas had rights. Betas were valued. Alphas understood that true strength meant protecting the vulnerable, not exploiting them. There were still problems. Old habits died hard and some wolves resisted change. But the foundation was solid. The Phoenix Queens had returned. And this time we wouldn't fall. Chapter 13, The Iron Council. The challenge came from the north, from the Ember Ridge Pack. Their alpha, a grizzled old wolf named Gareth, believed my new laws made fire blessed soft. He had ignored my decree against forcing children into combat roles, and a 15-year-old beta named Asha now lay in our healing ward, her arm shattered in 4 places after being forced to fight an alpha's son for rank. She was the 4th this month. I stood in the great council chamber, the air thick with tension. Alpha Gareth stood before me, flanked by 2 of his warriors. He didn't bow. "Phoenix Queen," he grunted, a mockery of respect. "Alpha Gareth." I kept my voice neutral, but the phoenix power in it made the torches flicker. "You stand in violation of pack law. The law I enacted to protect our young." "Your law," he spat. "Not mine. My pack follows the old ways. Strength is proven in combat. The weak are culled. This coddling will be the end of us all." "Asha is not weak," I said, my tone dropping to a dangerous calm. "She is 15. She is still growing. Her value is not determined by her ability to win a fight she was never meant to have." "What value does a beta have if she cannot defend herself?" Gareth challenged, his eyes gleaming. "You sit on your throne of pretty words, but you do not know what it is to lead a pack in the harsh northern territories. We do not have the luxury of your southern softness." Kieran took a half step forward, smoke beginning to leak from his hands, the gift he'd developed through our mate bond. I placed a gentle hand on his arm, stopping him. "This was my fight. You think protecting a child is softness?" I asked, rising from my throne. I didn't need to raise my voice. The room grew colder, the smoke in the air thicker. "You think allowing a young wolf to reach her full potential is luxury? Then you are not just cruel, Alpha Gareth. You are a fool." I walked down from the dais until I stood directly before him. He was taller, broader, but he took a step back. My smoke swirled around us. "My mother died to bring me into this world," I said, my words echoing in the silent hall. "My pack threw me away because I was different. I survived alone in the Ashwood, not because I was the strongest, but because I was the most determined. I learned that true strength isn't about breaking others, it's about refusing to be broken. It's about building up those around you so the entire pack becomes unbreakable." I looked past him to the watching council members. "The old ways you cling to are the same ones that left me to die. They are the same ones that would have let Asha be crippled for life for no greater crime than being young. I will not allow it. Not in my territory. Not while I am Phoenix Queen." I turned my gaze back to Gareth. "So here is my judgment. You will return to your pack. You will publicly apologize to Asha and her family. You will pay for her healing and compensate her for her pain. And you will restructure your training so that no child under 16 is forced into a ranking challenge." He stared at me, his jaw working. "And if I refuse? Then I will dissolve the Ember Ridge Pack," I said, and the finality in my voice made his warriors flinch. "I will scatter your warriors to other packs who follow the law. And I will place your territory under Shadow Pack protection until a new alpha, one who understands the meaning of strength, can be chosen." The silence was absolute. He was weighing his pride against his pack's survival. Finally, his shoulders slumped. The fight drained out of him. He bowed his head, a true submission this time. "It will be as you say, Phoenix Queen." When he and his warriors had left, Kieran came to stand beside me. "You were magnificent," he murmured, his hand finding mine. "It's exhausting," I admitted, leaning into him. "Changing minds is so much harder than winning battles." "But more lasting," he said. "You're not just giving them loss, Sera. You're giving them a new way to see the world. That takes time." I looked out at the twilight settling over the territory. "Then we'd better keep going. There's a lot of world left to change." Epilogue: The Girl Who Survived. I am Sera. I am 28 years old and I have been Phoenix Queen for 19 years. Today I'm standing in the Ashwood Expanse, in the exact clearing where my pack abandoned me 21 years ago. There's a monument here now, simple stone but meaningful. The inscription reads, "For every throwaway, every abandoned child, every fire blessed told they were worthless. You survived. You mattered. And we will never forget." Kieran stands beside me, his hand warm in mine, our mate bond as strong as the day it formed. "Do you ever regret it?" he asks quietly. "Taking on all this responsibility? You could have stayed hidden, lived quietly, and let other children suffer what I suffered?" I shake my head. "Never. This is what I was meant for. What my mother died giving me the chance to do. What the eternal flame kept me alive to accomplish." "You've changed the world," he says. "We've changed the world," I correct. "Together." "Together?" he agrees, pulling me close. Behind us, I hear footsteps, our children racing through the forest playing an elaborate game. Lyra leads them, her copper-gold fire gleaming in the afternoon sun. She's 10 years old now, the same age I was when I first shifted. Her power is already stronger than mine was. Behind her, our twin sons, Ash and Ember, 7 years old, chase with abandon. One with Kieran's gray eyes, one with my brown. They haven't manifested yet, but their smoke is there. I can feel it sleeping, growing stronger every day. The next generation. The future. Proof that throwaway children can become queens. Lyra catches my eye and grins, her phoenix-born power radiating joy and strength in equal measure. She races over, shifting mid-stride to human form, throwing her arms around me. Mama, can we see the old cave? The one you lived in? You promised you'd show us. I did promise, I agree, ruffing her copper hair. Come on, all of you. Let me show you where your mother learned to survive. As we walk through the Ashwood that raised me, the deadlands that kept me alive when no one else would, I think about the girl I was. 7 years old, abandoned, terrified, convinced she was worthless. And I think about who I became. Phoenix Queen. Mate to Kieran. Mother to the next generation of leaders. The girl who survived and changed everything. Mama, Lyra asks as we reach my old cave. When you were here alone, were you scared? Every day, I admit. But I was also determined. I decided that surviving wasn't enough. I wanted to live. To become someone strong enough that no one could throw me away ever again. And did you? I smile and pull her close. What do you think? I think you became someone no one could ever throw away. Someone the whole world bows to. Someone who protects fire-blessed who can't protect themselves. She looks up at me with those wise copper-gold eyes. I want to be like you when I grow up. You'll be better, I promise. Because you won't have to fight for every scrap of respect. Won't have to prove your worth to people who've already decided you're worthless. You'll grow up knowing you matter. That you're valued. That you're loved. And that will make you stronger than I ever was. I don't know, Kieran says, joining us at the cave entrance. Your mother is pretty strong. She stopped an entire war with one command. She changed laws that had stood for centuries. She made alphas bend knee who'd never submitted to anyone. That's going to be hard to beat. I'll find a way, Lyra says confidently. I'm her daughter. I'm stubborn like that. We all laugh, and the sound echoes through the Ashwood that once held only my desperate fear. Now it holds hope. As the sun sets and we make our way back to Pack Lands, to our home, our family, our future, I think about how far I've come. From the girl the Ashwood claimed to the queen who commands fire blessed. From abandoned to essential. From worthless to priceless. They were wrong about me. All of them. Every alpha who said I was defective. Every wolf who said I was worthless. Every rule that said I didn't matter. They were wrong. And every day, with every law passed, every child protected, every fire-blessed who grows up knowing they have value regardless of rank or designation, I prove it. I am Sera, Phoenix Queen, mate to Alpha Kieran, mother to the future, and the girl who survived. That night, under the full moon, I stand on the balcony of our home with Kieran beside me and our children sleeping safely inside. What are you thinking? He asks. That I wouldn't change anything, I say honestly. Not the abandonment, not the suffering, not the fear. Because all of it made me who I am. And who I am, I look at him. Who I am matters. Who I am changes things. Who I am protects the fire-blessed who need protecting. Who you are, Kieran says, pulling me close, is everything. You're my mate, my partner, my Phoenix Queen. And I fall more in love with you every single day. Even when I'm being stubborn and refusing to compromise on new laws? Especially then. I laugh and kiss him, feeling the mate bond sing between us, feeling the weight of the crown I wear and the responsibility I carry and the love that makes it all bearable. This is my life. This is my purpose. This is why I survived when I should have died. The eternal flame had plans for me, plans that required me to be abandoned, to suffer, to grow strong in ways I never would have if I'd been kept and coddled and protected. I'm not grateful for the pain. But I'm grateful for what the pain taught me. Strength, resilience, compassion for those who suffer. The ability to look at broken things and see how they can be rebuilt better. As I stand there in the moonlight, I send a silent thank you to the Ashwood that raised me. To my mother who gave her life for mine. To Alara who taught me. To Kieran who chose me. To every wolf who believed in me when I was nothing. And to the 7-year-old girl who refused to die. Who crawled through the deadlands with bleeding feet and an empty stomach and a will of steel. Who befriended ash crawlers when she should have eaten them. Who listened to the voice in her head when everyone said she was broken. who survived because giving up wasn't in her nature. That girl became a queen. And this queen will spend every day of her life making sure no other girl has to fight that hard just to be seen as valuable. This is my vow. This is my legacy. This is why I survived. The end.